Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iPadOS has finally been released to the public. It's now available for all supported devices, so that means if you have an iPad Air 2, like this one, an iPad Mini 4 or newer, you'll be able to install it. So a 2017, 2018 iPad, all of the iPad Pro devices, all of those are eligible for iPadOS. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Now, just like iOS 13 supported faster performance on older devices or current devices, so does iPadOS. So if you have a Face ID supported iPad Pro, it will unlock much faster. And it works a little bit better in different orientations, it seems, as well. Also, apps launch up to 2 times faster, and that includes on older iPads, just like the iPad Air 2. So apps will launch faster, you can get rid of them faster, performance overall is quicker. It just feels like you're back to what it was when it was newer. You have better performance overall. You also get to save some size with your apps, just like iOS 13 as well. You save size, apps are smaller to download and to install. Now the home screen is all new also. So the home screen has a new Today view, and as you can see, it's on the left here with all of our widgets. Now we don't have to leave this here. We can change that by hitting Edit and then turning it off here where it says keep on home screen as far as the Today view is concerned. So we just turn that off, we go hit done, and now when we swipe over, it goes away. If we swipe back, it comes back. So it's a nice little addition to see things like your battery, your shortcuts, maybe your screen time, whatever you would like that you have for widgets on your iPhone show up here on your iPad. Now also, there's the same setting under settings. And if you tap on display and brightness and scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see we have more, bigger, or keep today view on the home screen. So if we go to bigger, it makes the icons bigger, and you can keep it this way if that's better for you. Or you go to more and then you can get the today view. You can't get the today view with the larger icons. It won't work that way. Now there's another feature under display and brightness, dark mode, and that's something a lot of people have wanted. So you can switch to dark mode if you prefer that, go back to light mode, whatever works for you. I actually have it on a schedule, so at sunset it switches to dark mode, and then in the morning it switches back. I find it's much better for reading at night, but I don't like the screen dark all the time. Now with all the changes to the home screen, we now have huge changes to the way slide over and applications can work together. So if I open up Safari, for example, you'll see I have Safari and Notes. So I have a note, my Safari window, I can resize it like I could before, bring it back to what it was. And then if I bring the dock back in and tap on Safari, it will show me all of my spaces that have Safari actively open in them. So I can go to Safari and Music, or tap Safari again, and I can go to Safari and the App Store. And I can change any of these as well. And you'll see, maybe we'll go back to Safari and Notes. Now, if I bring this up here, and maybe I want to go into the App Store right away, it brings me back to the space that had the App Store open in it. Now, of course, I can just drag this down, drag it up and make it full screen, or bring it off to the side again. And you can bring it to the side if you want and see all of your different applications here, or pull down and bring it into a window again. There's a lot of different options how you can do this. Maybe I want news on the side. We can bring news on this side, or we can go back and bring in the App Store, or open up the App Store, or bring in news. It's however you want to do it. You can arrange this however you'd like. You can even have multiple Safari windows. So if I hold the window button here, you can open a new window, merge all windows, have a new private tab, or close this window. We'll open a new window, and it opens side by side. So I think you get the idea. We'll go to my website. Now we have 2 websites open. So you've got all of these different options that you can use now, and they call this App Expose, so you can see whatever app you have open. So I think it's really nice, great ways to interact between all of the different applications, making them full screen, half screen, a quarter of the screen, whatever you'd like, is really nice. Now there's some changes to the way links work as well, and this is pretty helpful, especially if you have an address or email. But if we go into Safari, for example, and you'll see there's text specs on the Apple website for the iPhone 11, I'll 3D press or long press, as you know it now, and move it over here to the right. I can drag it in a separate window and it opens a Safari tab. So this is really nice. You could open it as a separate tab as well, but if it was an email address, it would open Mail, or if it was a physical address, it would open Maps. So those things are all really nice and brand new. Now there's some new features for audio sharing as well. So maybe you have a set of AirPods. I have one of them in my ear. And maybe you have a friend that has Powerbeats Pro or a separate set of AirPods. You have to use AirPods or Powerbeats Pro currently to do this. Now you want to make sure they're paired to your device, and you'll see they're paired here on the left. And then if I go and play a song, for example, open this up, I'll just hit play on a random song. Now the song's playing in my AirPod, and if I pull the control center down here and then I hit the AirPlay button, you'll see I have AirPods 2 and Powerbeats Pro. If I tap on the Powerbeats Pro, I can pair both of them at the same time and control the volume on both of them at the same time. You also get a little sharing icon right here in the upper right on the volume. And if I long press on volume, I can control them individually. So you can share music with anyone you'd like, as long as they have AirPods paired to your device or Powerbeats Pro. Now, along with the audio sharing, you'll also have the option to announce messages with Siri. That's found under Settings and then Siri and Search. Now, the App Store has some changes as well. So if we go into the App Store, you'll see we have Today, Games, Apps, and now we have Arcade. So if you have Apple Arcade, you can subscribe to this. You get a 30-day trial, or it's $4.99 a month for all of these different games. And there's some really good ones. It's worth the trial to see if you want to try it out, but overall, I think it's pretty good. But the other major change is how you check for updates, since the arcade button replaced that. And there's two ways to do that. You can either tap your name here in the upper right, or your little icon, and that will bring you to this page where you'll see all of your available updates. Now you can uninstall an app by swiping here and deleting the app, or you can just hit Update All and it will update all of your apps. So that's a quick way to do that. The other way to do that is to long press on the App Store icon and just go to Updates. This will bring you to the same place, and now you'll have your updates. Aside from those updates, the App Store also supports Arabic and Hebrew now as far as languages are concerned. Now, another change that's pretty exciting, especially for arcade, is we now have, aside from this, we now have PS4 and Xbox One S and Xbox One X controller support. So you can pair those through Bluetooth on your iPad to play games. I have a separate video, and I'll link that below so you can check it out, but I have a separate video on how to do that. It's not very hard, and it works really well. Now with iPadOS and iOS 13 come a ton of different gestures and ways to do things. So if we go into Notes, so within Notes, you'll see I have a paragraph and then another sentence, or it's not really a paragraph, but if I tap on a word here and then I hold my finger, I've got the ability to move the cursor around, and my finger is not blocking that cursor. I can move it wherever I'd like, and it works really well. Now, if we want to select the word, we can double tap the word we want to select. If I want to select a whole sentence, I can triple tap it, and it selects the sentence. If I'm up here and I quadruple tap, 1, 2, 3, 4, it selects everything. And that may not be the most intuitive, but that's the way they have it now. Now, there's another gesture. If we tap with 3 fingers, we get a little menu up here that says cut, copy, paste, redo, and undo, or we can use our fingers to do the same thing. So if I want to copy, I can use 3 fingers and pinch. Now it says copy. If I want to paste, I can go down here, and I can paste by doing the reverse, pinching out. If I select this, if I pinch twice, it will cut. You'll see it says cut. Again, I can paste, or I can undo and redo with 3 fingers. So I can swipe left to right. So swipe right. See if we do this, swipe right. That is redo. Swipe left is undo. Again, redo, undo. So those are the new gestures that you have. So they may not be super intuitive, but once you get used to the cut, copy, and paste, it's pretty nice on a larger display. It works on an iPhone, but it's harder to do on a smaller display. Now, since we're in Notes, we have some new features here as well. And Notes gets checklists now. So this little icon here, tap on this, and we can make a checklist. You'll see there, we can make another one, whatever you'd like to do, you can make one there. We've got tables, we can adjust our fonts, which is nice, monospaced, body, subheading, that part's nice. And then also we have much better search throughout Notes. Notes was terrible with search, so was Messages, and they've both improved greatly. Now we also get shared folders and then also a new gallery view. Now the Apple Pencil gets some updates as well. It's got lower latency now on all iPads, so it's more of a software thing, and it should respond even better than it did before. We also have a new toolbar that shows up in places like Notes, so it just is a little more colorful. It's a little nicer. We've also got an auto minimize option, and then we can move it anywhere we want, from side to side, top, bottom, wherever we'd like. Now we've got a new gesture here as well with our iPad, but using the pencil. And if we drag from the lower corner, we can take a screenshot. So you'll see I just took a screenshot. I can resize it. And then screenshots get an update as well. You can have full page screenshots. So what that means is if I go into Safari, and you'll see this is a long page, let me take a screenshot. If I tap on full page here at the top, now I've got a fully scrollable page, and I can mark up the entire page. So this is new in iOS and iPadOS 13. It's really nice. So I think they made some huge improvements for most people when it comes to not only the pencil, but the way you can use it with gestures and everything else. Now, one of the features that we gain with iPadOS is mouse support. So now we can support Bluetooth mice, including Apple's own, even though they're not technically supported. I'll show you how to pair those in a moment. And you can use a trackpad as well. So if we go to Settings, then we go to Accessibility, and then we go to Touch, and then we go to Assistive Touch, and then we go down to Devices, we can pair a Bluetooth device. And then if we go back one, you'll see that we have mouse keys and pointer style. We can change what it looks like, the color and size. But if you want to pair Apple's own devices, it's a little different than that. So if we go back to the main page of Accessibility, and then we go to Switch Control, and then under Switch Control, we go to Switches. Then we go to Bluetooth Devices. And under Bluetooth Devices, you'll see I have Magic Mouse 2. Let me forget this one so I can show you how to pair it. Turn your mouse off and then turn it back on, but do not click it, and we'll wait for it to connect. And it may take a moment, but all I did was tap on it. So give it just a moment. There we go. It took a couple tries. Now it's connected and I can use this mouse, but I have to turn Assistive Touch on in order for my mouse to show up. So I'll go back, go to Touch, go to Assistive Touch, turn it on, and now I have a mouse cursor. So I can use the mouse with it. I can drag. 2 fingers does not work. You can set a right click and a left click, but 2 fingers does not work. So you can click and drag, go home. You can't swipe. You can drag or click there and drag your icons, but you cannot use the gestures on the trackpad or the mouse yet. Now the keyboard gets an update as well. So if I go into Notes, and you'll see I have the large keyboard. If I pinch the keyboard, I can shrink it down, and now I can use a new feature called Quick Path, and I can swipe to type. So I can move the keyboard around, though, by holding the little line at the bottom, putting it wherever I want, or I can just say, "Hi, how are you today?" And you'll see it typed it out while I was swiping. Now, this sort of small keyboard has been on iPad for years. They took it away, and now it's back. Now, if you want to go back, just unpinch and bring it back. So that's really nice. They've also added a bunch of things to the keyboard as far as different languages for Quick Path. Not everyone is supported, but English, simplified Chinese, Spanish, German, French, Italian, and Portuguese are all supported for Quick Path. They'll add more of them later. Also, there's adjustable handwriting for China if you're using a Chinese keyboard or Cantonese keyboard, and there's better predictive text for that as well. Now, there's also new keyboard shortcuts, and there's a lot of them. There's over 30 new shortcuts that you can do for keyboards. So if you've got a keyboard attached, you can use a bunch of keyboard shortcuts. Now, lots of different apps have different shortcuts for the keyboard, and to see those, if you're using an external keyboard, just hold down Command, for example, and it will pop up all the different things you can do at the same time using Command. So no matter where you are, maybe you're on the home screen, again, hold Command, it will give you a list of what you can do shortcut-wise. Now, a feature we haven't seen a whole lot is fonts, and fonts should allow us to change the font throughout different applications such as Pages and things like that, not necessarily the OS itself. But you can access that by going to Settings, General, and then Fonts. And under Fonts, you should be able to open the App Store, and under the App Store, there should be new fonts. However, they're not showing up yet, so hopefully they'll be here soon, and we'll be able to add a bunch of fonts to iPadOS and iOS as well. Now Files gets a pretty big update. So if we go into Files, we now have what looks basically like Finder on a Mac. So we've got our files, our locations, our favorites, our tags, and then we have our different folders. So maybe I want to go to name. We'll go to this image here, and the image gives us all sorts of information, such as what type it is, the size of it, its dimensions, and then we can share this for collaboration. We can rotate it and mark it up here, but if I hit the three dots, we can share it here. We can also compress it or unzip it if we want to before we send it. We could save it again, assign a contact. There are so many options in here, and it's really, really nice. Now you can also connect to a server. If you have a server at home or somewhere else, you'll need that server address in order to connect to it. But you do have the option to connect to servers now to get your files. And then also one of the biggest things, or probably the best thing, is you can connect an external hard drive to it. So let's try that out. Now you can connect a hard drive, an SSD, an SD card reader, and instead of having it open up in Photos, it should now show up in Files. So we'll give it just a moment to connect, and you'll see it says Canon. So if I tap on Canon, now I have my folder structure. I can go into it. I had Panasonic on here as well. Here's a photo I took, and I can import this, or I can share it, or do whatever I want with it. And I'm looking at the drive itself, or the SD card, or whatever we have connected to it. So it's super helpful, especially if you want to carry a thumb drive around, use external storage, have some extra storage for your iPad. You can now do that. And it's something that I think we should have had years ago, but now that we have it, you can't really live without it if you need some external storage, especially if you have a lot of photos or video on the go. Now, one of the biggest features of iPadOS is a new feature called Sidecar. This allows us to mirror or use this as a secondary display to a Mac. So let me show you that. Now, you do have to have macOS Catalina. Now, Sidecar will work wirelessly or with a wired connection. You'll have better latency with a wired connection, and you just use USB-C to USB-C or USB to Lightning, depending on which devices you have. Now, you will need macOS Catalina in order to do this, and once you have that, just go to your system preferences, then you'll go to Sidecar, and if you're on a wireless connection, the device should just show up. You'll see it here if both devices are unlocked and working. Click on the device, and then it will move over to this display. Give it a second, and it will show up. Now I can use the Apple Pencil or my finger just to move this around. We can go into Safari here, go to Apple, and we have everything we had before. Now it's a little bit sluggish. You can use 2 fingers to scroll instead of 1, but it does work, and it works pretty well. We'll close this here, and you can use it as a secondary display. You can mirror your displays, whatever you want to do. It's just a nice way to get these connected. And there were apps that did this before, but now it's just native built into macOS and iPadOS. Now, Safari gets some pretty significant updates as well. So if we go into Safari, you'll see it has an updated start screen. That's not really anything too significant, but if we go to the Apple website, we have a bunch of new things that this does. By default, it now is a desktop web browser. So no longer do you have to request desktop mode. It is desktop mode, just like your Mac. So you can use it with WordPress, Squarespace, Google Docs, anything like that, and it should work the same as it does on a Mac. Now you also have some new views as well. So if you hit these 2 A's here, we can change the size of the font just by hitting A. We can make it bigger or smaller. Hit it again. We can hide a toolbar. We can request the mobile website if we want, or we can individualize settings specific to this web page. So maybe I want to allow Apple to use my camera. I can allow it. Or maybe I go to Facebook and I don't want to allow them to use any of these things. I can deny it specific to the website. So that's a really nice new security and privacy update as well. Now also we can customize links individually. So if we go to learn more and long press, you'll see we have some options here where it says hide link previews. So maybe I don't want it to come up and show it. Now it doesn't show it anymore. If I want to show it again, I can show it. And then finally, if I long press on here, you'll see this is a file. I can download the linked file, and it goes up to this little arrow. Now, if I tap on this down arrow here, this is my downloads, and you'll see the download here. It saved a little link to this website, and if I hit this button here, it opens up in Files where we can view it just like we could on Finder. Now, if we go home, there are some other significant updates as well that carry across iOS. And the first one is Photos. Photos gets a complete redesign, and it's much better in my opinion. So if we go to Photos, you'll see this is the layout of Photos. It has real-time video playing in the background. This is a video I never released, but it's got real-time video playing in the background. And at the top, we've got years, months, days, and all photos. That's nothing new. But if we pinch out, we go to months. If we pinch in, we go to days. Or if we pinch in again, we go to the photo itself. So it's a really nice redesign of the interface itself. Again, pinch out, it goes back. Now, if we go to For You, this is where it's customized for us, similar to Google Photos. Now, under the For You tab, you'll see it's created little memories for me. And this is of a trip to Manhattan. And at the same time, a watch update came out for watchOS. So you'll see it's showing here. And it'll also start to play back video in real time. And then one of the biggest updates to this Photos app is the editing ability. So if I go into this photo, hit Edit, I can now change everything from exposure to highlights, shadows, vibrance, all the way down to vignette, and change them in real time. No slowdowns. You can do this on an older iPad as well. Hit Done. And probably the most impressive thing is you can do the same with video. So you'll see there's video. If I hit Edit, we can go over here and change things. We can crop it, of course, change the rotation, and it saves in real time. Then maybe go to color. You can change filters. You'll see we have the same exposure controls, and they're real time for video itself. So it's really impressive and definitely a huge update to Photos that I don't think a lot of people realize is actually there. Now there's an update to music as well, and music gets one of my favorite updates, although it's kind of small and specific to only some songs that have been updated for it. So let me go to one of the songs I used in my iOS video as well. I have a song playing, and if we go to the song itself and I hit this little button here, we now have lyrics that play back in real time as they're being sung by the artist. I can scroll through them, tap on them, and it actually just plays as the song sings or jumps around to that part. This is one of my favorite features because it reminds me of the Steve Jobs era. It's just more focus on attention to detail and things like that. Now, one of the other features is if we hit these three dots here, we can see what's playing next, or we can change the order of it, and we just have more options for what's next. We can take off a song if we want. It's a really nice little change to the way everything works. If I want to play a song next, I can long press a song, and then we've got options to delete it or play it next, and that song will play next. Just a small update to music, but it's something that's new. Now, we also have an update to accessibility that I think is pretty huge. If I go to accessibility under settings, and then I go to voice control, and then set up voice control, hit continue, allow, and once it's turned on, we'll have an icon in the upper right here on an iPad that shows us that it's active. And now I can talk to the iPad and tell it commands. Go home. And the iPad will go home. I can tell it open settings. Open settings. And it opens settings. And you'll see sometimes you need to pause in between, but it will allow you to text people, message them. Whatever you can do with your hands, you can actually do with your voice within iPad. This is true on iOS 13 as well. It's a huge update that I think is one of the most significant upgrades in technology in a long time. So thankfully there's things like this around for people that need a little bit more help. Now there are updates to things like screen time. That may not be a huge update for some, but it just combines your app limits and gives you more information for children. There's also huge privacy and security updates with new location and security controls. I'll hit done here. There's new privacy updates, like I said, and if you go to privacy, you've got location controls that are a little more granular. They will let you know when things are using your location, and it will also let you know when things are using Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, as they can use those to kind of tell your location as well. So you can really block and lock down any apps that are trying to do that. Now, if we go into Safari, and maybe we want to share the Apple website, if we share it, you'll see we have a new share sheet. It gives your favorites at the top. Then it has things like AirDrop and apps you use the most below that. And then you've got more options as well. And you can also configure these the way you want. So you can hit edit actions and completely change the way your share sheet looks. So it's really nice to be able to arrange these and a lot more organized than it used to be. Now we have an all new reminders app as well. Now, if you use reminders a lot, this should be a huge update for you. You can make lists that are shared and things like that. Let me see if I can find it here. And under my Apple apps, you'll see reminders. Now, reminders may be big for some people. Like I said, you can create lists. There's a new reminder. You can create lists, change whatever you'd like, remind me on a day, location, remind me when messaging. It uses artificial intelligence and machine learning to really help you kind of prioritize what's going on in reminders as well. And all of these apps work really well with dark mode. Now, Shortcuts is installed by default on all iOS 13.1 and 13 devices. And you'll also have a new automations tab. And this automations tab will allow you to use NFC tagging on your iPhone, for example, to create a personal or a home automation. And this allows you to change a lot of different things, such as travel time. You can set automations for when you arrive, leave, before you commute, time of day. And again, like I said, on an iPhone, you can use NFC tags to have even more information or do different things when you just tap your phone to it. There's some really nice changes there as well. Now, under messages, we have some changes. So if I go to messages and then I tap on these three dots here, you'll see I have edit, name, and photo. If I edit name and photo, I can now have a new photo that I share with people, similar to what WhatsApp does. So I can share it with contacts or always ask. I can turn it off altogether if I want, or just have something customized. And that's really all the new things you get within messages on older devices, but on newer devices, you get a little bit more. Now, in newer devices, you have Memoji and Animoji, and there are some new Animoji, and you'll see there's my Memoji. You've got a mouse and an octopus, a cow, giraffe, shark, owl, and it creates stickers for each one of these now. So it's got different emotions for all of them, your Animoji or Memoji. And then also there's some new options at the top. If you tap on the person's name and then hit I for info, it can share your current location or see the location of the person that's available if they're sharing with you, or you can see your photos and different links that you have. Also, locations will be here as well if you've shared that information. Now, Mail gets a pretty big update as well, and Mail is one of my favorite things. It works great in the newest version. It didn't in some of the betas, but it seems to work well now. And you can see here's Mail. It doesn't really look too much different here, but what you have are some new options. So if I go to maybe reply to this email, you'll see it looks a little bit different. And then down at the bottom, we can mute that email, have it notify you, and then you just have all your options here. You can flag it with different colors if you want to do that, or not flag it. And then you also obviously can reply and forward and things like that. But probably one of my favorite features is if you want to remove email. So if you hit edit, you can tap on one and then just slide and select them all and delete them at once. Or you can hit select all and then delete. So those are some new options as well. Now, if I create a new email and then I tap in the box to start typing, I have some options here under A where I have formatting and fonts and things like that. So there's just a lot more nice options to make a better email. And it's just a much more useful app that adds things that other email apps have actually had for quite some time. Now, Siri gets an update, and using the neural engine within the new processors should sound a lot more human. So if I ask Siri to read me a story, let's see what it sounds like. Read me a story, please.
One lovely day, Siri got a job as a personal assistant at Apple, and that was very exciting. People said, "Oh, Siri."
So you'll see there's more pauses, and it's supposed to be more natural. Certain things sound amazing. It's getting better and better over time. So I think that'll be really nice, especially Siri. Hopefully we'll get some more features as well. Now, there's a new app that replaces Find Friends and Find My iPhone, and that's called Find My. So it used to be those two separate apps. They've combined them into one app called Find My. And you'll see it gives you a map, and then down at the bottom left, you've got people, devices, and me. And then if we go to the options under me, you'll see we have some options such as my location, share my location, allow friend requests, receive location updates, use this iPad as my location, and then help a friend. So you can actually help a friend that's lost their device, let them log in here and try to locate it. It's really nice and just combined into one place. They're also supposed to add different tags and things in the future that should allow us to find different things we've tagged with things like Tile. If you've ever seen Tile, you can attach that to a backpack and locate the backpack. And when you're locating a device, you can even locate newer devices that are turned off. They'll relay their information through Bluetooth to nearby iOS devices or iPadOS devices and let Apple know anonymously from those devices where your device is. So it doesn't tie anything to other people, but it lets you know where your device is so you can better track it if you've lost it. Now, Maps gets a pretty significant update as well. It looks the same right here, but there's more features and more detail within each city. They should be highly detailed by the end of this year, depending on the city you live in, but the whole US should be updated, and then it will get updated throughout the world overall. Now, you'll see there's detail about each building and location. You even have road closures here, and it will give you more information about that. And then you have air quality index in the lower right. If you press and hold, it gives you the current temperature. That's nothing too exciting, but here you can see we have favorites such as home and work. We can add a location or drag down, and you'll see a bunch of different locations here on the left. We can create a collection, and a collection will allow you maybe to go on a trip and have a collection of places you'd like to visit. If we cancel that, and let's go to another place such as Apple Park, where we can see some more information. If you search for something such as Apple Park, you'll now get more information, even the phone number, a Wikipedia article, more information. You can add it to favorites. But if we zoom in nearby on one of the roads, we get some binoculars. Now, this is not available in every city, but this is called Look Around. Now let's make it full screen, and we can look around the location that we're at. And this is very similar to Street View, but a lot smoother than what Google has currently. So you'll see it just drives down the parkway smoothly here. If we turn, we can look around. It's just nice and smooth, and hopefully will be updated even more and more in the future. But I think it's a pretty nice little feature, and it even shows things like stop signs that are in use. We'll hit done here, and if you look around, it'll show different stoplights, different traffic, just like Google Maps, but in the Apple style. Now, Books gets one small feature, and that's reading goals. You can have reading goals now within Books, so maybe you want to read 3 hours a day. You can set those if you'd like to do that. Now, Calendar also gets a small update, and calendars will now allow you to add attachments. So maybe you want to add an attachment. You can add an attachment right here, share it with somebody, and maybe you want to have meeting notes. You can do that through Calendar now. It's a pretty small update, but it's there. The Home app gets a very small update, and this Home app, what that means is it now supports cameras, and Apple has partnered with camera companies to make sure that your video feed is end-to-end encrypted and only you can view it. There's also some new icons, so if we go in here, go to our light, there's some new icons, and there's also some new background wallpapers as well. You also get Wi-Fi WPA3 support and many hotspot updates for family sharing. So maybe you've shared your hotspot from your iPad or your iPhone before with an iPad within your family. It more easily remembers that information. Now, Enterprise gets some small updates such as data separation for bringing your own device. So you can have multiple accounts within that device for things like schools and businesses. And then also there's new authentication options under Enterprise as well. So they're catering more to the enterprise and their needs, which is nice to see that you can use your device there. Now, also, there is huge updates for Indian language support. It's greatly enhanced for Siri and supports all 22 official Indian languages. There's also 38 new keyboard languages, and then finally, augmented reality updates that can now better sense when there's depth between something. So maybe you have an object in the background, you have a table in the middle, and then someone behind it. It will know the distances and where people are standing relative to those different objects. And that is really it for all of iPadOS. There are over 200 changes. There are small little tweaks here and there that I haven't mentioned, but I think iPadOS is one of my favorite updates. It's now basically a computer. The only thing it's lacking for me personally is Final Cut Pro. If they add that, I can use this as my main device. That's it for iPadOS. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. I think it really enhances the iPad and makes it even more usable as your everyday computing device. But if you'd like to get your hands on the wallpaper that I used throughout the video, of course I'll link it in the description as I always do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe and hit that notification bell if you'd like to see more of these videos as soon as they're released. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.